The crack of gunfire shattered the pre-dawn silence, and I felt the bullet was past my ear like a whisper from hell. My heart slammed against my ribs as I dove behind a rusted Humvee, the acrid smell of cordite burning my nostrils. But this wasn't some Taliban ambush. It was just another godforsaken drill at Fort Bragg. And there, in the chaos, I locked eyes with the new guy, Kenneth. His face pale as ghost under the strobe of flares, mouthing words I couldn't hear over the roar. "Patrick, get down!" That split-second glance hit me harder than any IED ever could. I'd been in the Army for 3 years, a staff sergeant chasing promotions and burying doubts. But Kenneth? He was the wild card who'd strolled into our platoon 2 weeks ago like he belonged in a J.Crew catalog. Not a foxhole. Tall, lanky frame with that easy Midwestern smile, buzzed brown hair that caught the sun just right, and eyes the color of worn denim. Blue enough to drown in if you stared too long. Ordinary, they said. Fresh out of basic at Fort Benning, no combat patches, no stories that stuck. But from day one, I couldn't shake him. It wasn't just the way he handled his M4 like an extension of his arm or how he'd crack a lame joke during PT to lighten the suck. It was the quiet way he'd linger after chow, sketching in a battered notebook while the rest of us bullshitted about X's and ESPN, like he was holding back a storm behind that all-American facade. Fort Bragg sprawls across North Carolina like a green beast, all pine thickets and red clay that sticks to your boots like regret. It's home to the 82nd Airborne, where we jump out of perfectly good airplanes and pretend we're invincible. I grew up in a nowhere town outside Raleigh, the kind where Friday nights meant high school football and church potlucks, and Dad's belt if you stepped out of line. Being gay, that was the devil's shortcut. Whispered about cousins who'd up and vanished to the big city. So I enlisted at 18, figured the uniform would iron out the kinks in my soul. 3 tours in Afghanistan later, I was good at the job, damn good. But the loneliness gnawed like dry rot. Don't ask, don't tell was ancient history. But the stares, the slurs under breath, they lingered like humidity in July. Kenneth showed up on a muggy Monday, duffel slung over his shoulder, saluting the CO with a grin that said he was here to prove something. Private First Class Kenneth Hale, sir. Ready to earn my jump wings. The platoon hooted, new blood always gets the ribbing. But I saw it in his eyes, that flicker of steel beneath the shine. I was assigned to break him in, show him the ropes on weapons quals and ruck marches. Up close, he smelled like Irish spring and fresh laundry, a scent that snuck into my dreams and left me waking in a sweat. Our first real talk came after a brutal 15-miler. Boots caked in mud, lungs burning like we'd inhaled napalm. We collapsed by the PX vending machines, chugging Gatorade that tasted like regret. "You ever think about why we're out here, Sarge?" he asked, wiping his brow with the hem of his shirt, flashing a strip of tanned abs that made my throat go tight. I shrugged, playing it cool. "Pays the bills. Keeps the wolves at bay." He laughed, low and real, like he got it. "Nah, man. For me, it's family. Dad was a grunt in Nam. Lost a leg at Kisan. Said the army made him whole again." His voice cracked just a hair, and I wanted to ask about the sketchbook, the way he'd draw these intricate cityscapes when he thought no one was looking. Instead, I clapped his shoulder, too long maybe, and muttered, "You'll fit right in, Hale." But he didn't. Not entirely. Whispers started. The way he'd dodge the strip poker games in the barracks, how he'd blush when Ramirez catcalled about weekend hookups in Fayetteville. I caught myself watching him during formations, the curve of his neck when he tilted his head to listen, the quiet grace in his run. It was dangerous, this pull, like stepping on a minefield with eyes closed. I'd dated once, back in Kabul, a translator named Amir who spoke poetry and kissed like salvation. Ended in tears and a hasty transfer. Lesson learned. Love in the ranks is a grenade with the pin half pulled. 2 weeks in, the drills ramped up. The CO, a grizzled colonel named Hargrove with a mustache like a broom bristle, announced Operation Phantom Strike, a live-fire sim designed to mimic a Taliban night raid. We were divvied into squads. Me leading Alpha Team, Kenneth slotted as my saw gunner. "Keep your head on a swivel, Private," I barked during the brief, but my eyes lingered on his, searching for that spark. He nodded. "Fierce. Got your 6, Sarge." Night fell like a blackout curtain, the air thick with cricket hum and distant thunder. We humped into the mock village, plywood hooches and pop-up targets under IR strobes. My pulse thrummed steady, muscle memory kicking in. Low crawl, flank left, suppress and advance. Then it went sideways. A flare popped premature, bathing the kill zone in magnesium white, and suddenly every shadow was enemy. Shouts erupted. Contact front, and rounds cracked real enough to chew gravel. I signaled Kenneth to lay down cover from the ridge, but as I pushed forward, a tripwire snagged my boot. Not real, I knew, just pyros and blanks, but in the frenzy it felt like fate laughing. The explosion bloomed orange, slamming me back into the dirt, ears ringing like church bells. Pain lanced my side where a sim round had tagged too hot, bruising ribs like a lover's grudge. I rolled, gasping, rifle up, but there he was, Kenneth, charging down the slope, ignoring protocol, his face a mask of terror and something deeper, raw as exposed wire. Patrick, not Sarge. My name, torn from his throat like a confession. He dropped beside me, hands frantic on my vest, checking for blood that wasn't there. Jesus, man, talk to me. Our faces inches apart, breaths mingling in the smoke, and time fractured. I saw it then. The same hunger I'd buried, mirrored in his eyes. No words, just that electric silence where truths hang unspoken. His fingers brushed my jaw, a touch meant to steady but igniting everything I'd starved for. The drill whistle blew, Index, but the squad froze, Hargrove's voice booming over the megaphone. Alpha team, report. We scrambled up, Kenneth hauling me like I weighed nothing, but the damage was done. Eyes on us, whispers already brewing. Back at the debrief, Ramirez cornered me in the latrine, breath sour with chew. What the fuck was that, Pat? You two got a bromance or what? I shoved past, stomach churning, but the seed was planted. Betrayal's a slow poison. It starts with doubt. Next days blurred into a minefield of my own making. Kenneth sought me out. Quiet coffees at the USO. Runs where our strides synced like heartbeats. I sketched to remember. He admitted one evening, pine-scented air cooling our sweat. He flipped open the notebook. New York skylines, a boy's profile that looked too much like mine. Grew up in Ohio farm country. Dad pushed the army hard after Mom split. Said it'd make a man out of me. His laugh was bitter. But I've been lying since I was 12. To him, to God, to mirrors. The admission hung heavy as rucksack straps. I nodded, throat tight. Me too. Raleigh boy, Bible Belt chokehold. Enlisted to escape, but it just follows. We danced around it. Brushes of knuckles during gear checks. Glances that lingered like smoke. Romance in the ranks is a tightrope over razor wire. Exhilarating, lethal. One night, after a jump where wind shear nearly scattered us like confetti, we ended up in the empty rec room, beers pilfered from the fridge. What if we didn't have to hide? He murmured, knee pressing mine under the table. I leaned in, lips ghosting his ear. What if we did? Our first kiss was tentative, tasting of hops and hope, soft, searching, like coming home to a house you'd forgotten the address of. It deepened in stolen moments. Behind the motor pool, fingers laced in the dark. Whispered promises during fire watch. He drew me, endless sketches of my hands, my smile, capturing the man I pretended to be. But betrayal waits in the blind spots. Ramirez, my oldest platoon buddy from basic, stocky Jersey kid with a laugh like thunder, overheard one midnight murmur. Pat's got a fairy on his string. He spat to the squad over cards, voice low but laced with venom. I confronted him at dawn PT, fists clenched. The hell's your problem? He sneered, eyes hard. My problem? You're my problem, Sarge. Weak link. If the CO finds out. It wasn't just words, he ratted. Anonymous tip to Hargrove. Inappropriate conduct. Alpha team leadership compromised. Investigation loomed like storm clouds. Interviews, sidelong stares, the platoon fracturing into camps. Climax hit during the final drill. A full-scale assault on enemy positions in the pines. Adrenaline sang in my veins, but dread coiled tighter. Kenneth and I were pushing through underbrush that clawed like accusations. Then crack! A branch snap. Not Sim, real as sin. Poacher? Saboteur? No, Ramirez. Accidentally triggering a flare that silhouetted us against the treeline, drawing enemy fire straight to our flank. Blanks or not, one hot round ricocheted wild, grazing Kenneth's temple in a spray of red. He crumpled, eyes wide in shock, and the world narrowed to that. My hands pressing his wound, blood slick and warm, his pulse fluttering under my palm. Stay with me, I roared, dragging him to cover as the squad converged. Hargrove bellowed ceasefire, medics swarming. But in that hellish blur, truths erupted. Ramirez confessed under the CO's glare. Just wanted to shake him loose, sir, for the team. His face crumpling like wet paper. Betrayal's face. Not monster, just fear in fatigues. Kenneth, stitched and pale in the aid station, gripped my hand under the sheet. Worth it, he whispered, voice slurry from morphine. All of it. The fallout was swift. Ramirez demoted, shipped to rear echelon. Hargrove's quiet nod during my review. Heard worse in Nam, Sergeant. Focus on the mission. No discharge, no scandal, just a file note and a long look that said, we see you. Platoon dynamics shifted. Some turned away, others clapped shoulders harder. Me? I learned the lesson in Kenneth's sketchbook, pages now filled with us. Tangled in barracks bunks, PG-rated dreams, jumping tandem from C-130s, hands linked against the fall. We didn't last in the ranks, transferred to a stateside liaison gig in D.C., trading foxholes for fluorescent offices. But that drill cracked us open, let the light in. Kenneth's dad visited once, grizzled vet with one good leg, eyeing us over apple pie at a diner off the Beltway. Heard about the scrape, he grunted, then softer. You kept my boy breathing. That's family. No hugs, no tears. Just acceptance. Hard-won as a Purple Heart. Years on, we're civilians. Him illustrating graphic novels in Brooklyn brownstones. Me consulting for vets nonprofits in the shadow of the Capitol. We argue over takeout Thai. Make love slow under city hum. Draw each other still. In laughter lines, in scars. The army taught survival. Kenneth taught living. Betrayal stings. But love is the drill that forges you unbreakable. In America, where flags wave over fractured hearts, we found our lesson. Ordinary's just the mask. Beneath it, we're all recruits in the fight for grace.